through this week, we've been in the middle of a series, and it was very apparent to me early on that we're not going to continue with the series that we've been in. It seems foolish to pretend that things haven't changed since last Sunday. So we're going to halt our series for this week, and we're going to sort of push a pause button and deal with a few issues that I think are significant for us as a community of faith to deal with. Now, this week, as all of us have experienced this storm that has left us a bit undone and in a variety of different states, I have found myself just dealing with a variety of different emotions. When the storm was bearing down on us, there were times where I was thinking there were trees in my yard that were going to come down on my house, my windows were going to explode, they were rattling, shaking. If you can take yourself back to the time where we were in the middle of the storm, there's a variety of different emotions that you were probably experiencing through the night, late through Monday night and then into Tuesday. And then when we awoke, there were some very different emotions that you probably felt. But there was a sense of disconnectedness, right? Because we didn't know how anybody else was doing. We knew we were safe. And our properties had taken on various points of damage. But at the end of the day, we made it. We made it through. And some were not as fortunate. Some people lost their lives. So there was this sense of gratitude because we were alive. And then there was just this questioning, well, how is he and everybody else doing? And, there was daylight until it wasn't, and then it was dark, and we were trying to figure out how to make provisions, because you really didn't have any sense of how long it was going to last. And as time went on, we did our best to try and be in touch with one another through texting. But most of the rest of the technology that we relied on so much, we didn't have available to us anymore. And that made some of us feel very antsy, didn't it? It made some of us feel very disconnected. And we had to move then into a place where we were going to make choices with our responses. You see, we always have choices. And as time wore on, I began to be in connection with several of you and then others in our neighborhood. And I saw some really great responses, and I saw some really not so great responses. People who after a day or two or three who were just getting tired of the inconvenience and had kind of lost perspective because they didn't know how anybody else was doing. They just knew that they weren't doing well. And then the food lines and the gas lines, as they started, the gas stations started opening up, and the grocery stores, and people getting just anxious about running out of gas, like lines and lines that I haven't seen maybe in my lifetime, back in the early 70s, perhaps with the gas lines. There's just a lot of fear that sort of came on people. And then people were getting irritated and just troubled. And I just kept thinking to myself, this is a moment for the best and the worst to come out. What's going to come out in me? How am I going to navigate this time? What kind of person do I want to be? I get to choose that. I didn't choose the storm or anything that happened as a result of it, but I didn't get to choose how I'm going to make it through the storm. And so I was sitting with that, and it wasn't lost on me that last week when we were looking at the birth of the church and the new community when they were at their best, there was this place where we read, and I read to you from Acts chapter 2, where it talked about this new community forming. And there's this place I want to read to you. This phrase has been in my head all week. It says, Peter had given this message, right? 3,000 people responded and came to faith, and the community was growing, and it says, those who accepted his message were baptized, about 3,000 were added to his number. And then they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. And everyone was filled with a deep sense of awe. That's the phrase that's been in my head all week, a deep sense of awe. I have experienced a deep sense of awe at the power of the storm and all of the devastation that it has brought. But But I was thinking back about last week and about this text, and I was thinking, this is a catalytic time for myself and for us as a people to experience the things that we hoped and dreamed that we could be a part of. We read this sometimes and we say, well, that was great. Wouldn't it be great to be a part of a fellowship like that? And then we somehow in our heads, we sort of dismiss, that was then and this is now. Because as it continues, what happens is they're filled with a deep sense of awe because of the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together. They had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. There was nobody in the fellowship who had any needs because everyone realized that it was going to take one another to make this thing work. And I thought most of our lives, we don't really get the opportunity to do that. We kind of live our lives and we serve and we care and we give when we can, but until we're really leveled to a place of not really being able to make it on our own, most of us try to. There's a stubborn fierceness and independence that many of us possess. And even through the storm, many of us are still trying to hold on to that, staying in our cold, dark homes. When we realized there were others who had to eat and had resources available, but we were just going to suck it up and make it work. And I just kept thinking about this passage, and I just thought, if not now, then when? What else has to happen for us to come to this place where we step into this? This is the larger story upon which I've been inviting you to find yourself in the middle of it. Where are you in this story? And I thought to myself, what is the church for anyway? If as a community of faith, we cannot learn how to receive from one another and then give. I'm convinced we don't really know how to give until we've understood what it means to receive. There's too much pride involved in the giving when we're not one who needs. Only when you understand what it's like to need and to receive help can you give from a generous and great heart. And so I've just been thinking about that. I walked the beaches in Asbury Park and Ocean Grove on about Wednesday or Thursday, and then into Bradley Beach and Belmar, and there was a sense of awe at the power of the destruction of the property, and to see jetties on the other sides of boardwalks, and to see just property destroyed and places rearranged. It's just amazing. And I just thought to myself, every moment in life is a key moment, because life itself is grace. It's a gift. We didn't earn or merit our life. We were given it. But there are some moments along the way where you just see things a little more clearly. I think this is a catalytic moment for us, guys. If there's going to be one, now seems like a pretty good one. And one of the things that I really need to help you understand is that I don't want to go through the motions of playing church. I want to be the church. I want us to be the church. And the scriptures say that when they were commissioned by Christ, the disciples, they were commissioned to be witnesses, not go do witnessing, to be witnesses. First in Jerusalem, then in Judea, then in Samaria, then to the outmost places of the earth. Here we are in Jerusalem. Okay? As we tend to and meet the needs of one another and care for one another where no one has need, we're then going to look beyond and we're going to see who in the larger community does. We're going to partner with places like the Red Cross and others. We're going to use this building as a resource, and we're going to use our people as a resource. Why? Because we have a choice today. We can just go on with life as it is once we've got our power back, or we can be a blessing to other people and provide a place for them to come and receive until they get what they need. Don't you long to be a part of a community where there's no one who has any need? That's life the way it's supposed to be. And you and I get to choose whether or not that's going to happen. In 2 minutes, I'm going to explain to you these forms and give you some instructions about what we're going to do. But the first thing that I want to say There are some of you who are going to be tempted to think that you have pretty much everything you need relative to those in Seaside and, Point Pleasant and Lavallette further south, or even North Queens and Staten Island. Those who have been devastated and lost homes and property and life. I know that Nancy in Monmouth Beach had water 4 feet up to her house, and she's lost a lot. And there are others of you who have as well. Huge oak tree fell on the Shipman's home, 100-year-old, cut it in half. 10 minutes before the power went out, Robert was playing video games. The tree fell right where he landed. If the power hadn't gone out 10 minutes before, it would have fell right on top of him. He was relocated to another part of the house. His life was spared. So you look and you think, well, gosh, I have it really good. None of that stuff happened. My home didn't fill out 4 foot of water. No tree crushed my house. I'm going to say to you this, and I want you to be real. I want to be real clear with you. If you have a need, it is significant. If you need hot water, if you need a place to wash your clothes, if you need a warm bed, if you need a place to charge, if you need something, anything, now is the time for you to humble yourself and to receive from those of us who are super blessed and in a place where we have something to offer.